Hello, okay, so today I'm going to talk about this mixed media painting I did using watercolour and gouache on top. I've used this technique before and I put the gouache paint over the underpainting of watercolour, and when I do the watercolour painting I'm really experimental and it's super fun. Okay, so I've been using a lot of wet on wet technique lately and really enjoying it, so that's what I'm going to use for this one. So I'm putting down some water onto my paper, which I've masked off to make a square because later I might mount it onto wood, and I'll talk about that at the end. And I'm just laying down my colours really. I'm not thinking about it too much. I got my colours on my palette ready earlier. I'm using sort of greens and blues, and I'll use a sort of warmer tone as well. And I'm not thinking about it too much. I'm just keeping it quite loose and organic, and laying down splodges of colour. But I don't know how it's going to turn out, and I could easily do something different at this point. So if you're following along, you could just kind of go a bit crazy on the paper and just really use it as a excuse to experiment and to really not worry about what you're doing, how it's looking. Just get the paint down and don't think about it too much. That's what I'm telling myself. And the reason that it really doesn't matter what you do is that it's an underpainting, and the overall look of the painting will change a lot when you add the layer of gouache on top. And also the underpainting will inform what you want to do for the gouache painting on top. So it really is a very experimental way of working. Okay, so after I got these colours down, I thought, you know what, I'm going to blend these together a bit. So I got my brush and I just pulled it down. But then that black was bleeding too much into the green below. So I used my squidgy to try and lighten up that area. And then next I got some tissue paper and I blotted away some of that black. So, you know, none of this was particularly planned. And I'm just, being experimental with lots of different tools and lots of different techniques. Okay, so I'm going to put the music up for a bit while I finish off this underpainting. Okay, so I was really happy with the underpainting at this point, and I felt like I wanted to put a kind of leaf shape on top, and I knew I was going to do something a bit like this, but the underpainting did help inform me as to what I was going to do, and I just scratched on the surface there the outline of this leaf, and afterwards I put a pencil line in as well. Okay, so all set to add the gouache on top now. I was just checking with a viewfinder what the painting looked like without the distracting bits on the edge. And here I'm going to get started with the gouache, and I went in with quite a light blue to start with, and later I darkened it. And now what I did with the gouache is I more or less filled in the background, but I did leave some parts of the watercolour showing through. Okay, I'm going to put the music up for a bit now and also speed the video right up. Okay, so this is getting finished. It's still wet, but I'm kind of happy with it. So I'm going to wait for it to dry and then probably add a little bit of detail afterwards. Okay, this isn't completely dry, but dry enough to keep working on it. I just felt like it needed a highlight of colour, and I think this orange, complementary to the blue, goes really well. So I'm going to add that in where I've painted in that sun shape there. And I was just using that test to make sure that it was going to look right, because as it's a sort of finishing touch, it's not going to be so easy to correct any mistakes. Okay, so that's done, and I'm just going to slightly correct the shape of this leaf here. Okay, so obviously the good thing about the gouache is that it is opaque and you can layer it over the watercolour, and I'm just using a plastic palette knife here to just soften that edge. Now I've gone for this kind of plant-like shape, but obviously you could use any shape for this kind of painting. The principle is just do your underpainting with your watercolour and then cover it over the top with the gouache. Okay, so I'm happy with this now and it's finished, and I'm going to take it away and let it dry and flatten it. I'll put a link to the method I used to flattening it in the description. I'm really happy with how this turned out. You can see with the gouache that I didn't do a completely even layer. I let some of the underpainting show through, and I also used my palette knife to scrape some marks in it. Now I just want to talk a bit about how I could frame this painting. I've got another painting that I did earlier that I mounted onto a wooden block like this, and I think this is such a nice contemporary way to finish a painting. This is the one I did earlier, and basically what you do is you glue it to the block, and then afterwards you use a kind of wax to seal the painting so you don't have to put it behind glass. Now on YouTube there's loads of tutorials on how to do this, and I haven't done my own tutorial. It's quite a new thing to me, and I'll probably do a tutorial once I feel like I've really mastered this. Now if you want to, then do please leave a comment. It makes a big difference to me personally, and I answer every comment, and it makes a difference to my channel as well. And just a side note, that if you're interested in this painting, then just message me because it is available to purchase. Okay, so I really hope that you've enjoyed this video and that it's been useful, and if you did like it then please hit the like button, and if you'd like to see similar videos in the future then please subscribe to my channel. Okay, thank you, bye.